Good evening, folks, and welcome. Thanks for joining us for another week of God at Work, where we're talking to different Memorial Road members and some of our friends from around the community, and just to see what 2020 and the beginning of 2021 has been like for them. We are asking the question, how have you seen God at work, even in the midst of a very difficult time? And so we're having these conversations. They're premiering each Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Some of you are watching this as it's premiering live. Some of you are watching it later. Either way, we're glad that you're watching. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that you are encouraged, hope that you're built up, hope that your faith is increased. Most of all, we hope that you're doing well right now. I want to bring on our guest for tonight. He's not technically a member of Memorial Road anymore, but he's still part of our family, and he's a good friend of mine doing important work in one of our sister congregations in the Oklahoma City area. We want to welcome Mr. Travis Akins. Welcome, Travis.
Hey, Josh, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. Thank you go ahead.
Before you kind of jump into everything, I'm glad you said what you just said, because I've been worried about you the last couple of days since you asked me to do this. I didn't know if you noticed I hadn't been to the office in about 2 years. So you just not noticed I'm not around anymore?
Well, because of your hard work ethic, sometimes we don't notice when you're not around.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I just assumed you were getting coffee for a couple of years.
Clearly, I'm still getting coffee.
That's right. Man, for everyone watching, Travis and I are really good friends. I've been grateful for Travis and his family and their friendship the past several years. Travis was first on staff at Memorial Road as young adults minister, and Travis is now the preaching minister at the Heritage Church of Christ. So, and Travis, you're the preaching minister there. I know your sweet wife Laura is active in leading the youth ministry there. She probably does other things. I'm going to bet that this past year she has also served as associate video production designer, etc. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, she produces all the videos I make now.
Yeah, that's right.
She's the producer. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me just tell me the story of you and your family in church from March. What have things been like for the past 9-12 months?
Well, it's probably not entirely unlike so many others. It's been incredibly busy and difficult. And one of the things that I guess being a preacher, I try to preach and try to practice as well is flexibility. And we've really had many opportunities to practice flexibility over these last, 10 months or whatever it is now. And, our personal story, even our church story is not unique in the sense that, man, seems like every week there's a new curveball. There's a new situation or new scenario that we have to adjust to, and that flexibility is pretty constant right now. So all the way back to March 15th, I think 14th, whatever it was, when kind of at least our little piece of the world changed forever, we've just tried to adjust and try to be positive in all of it, nonetheless, which is not always easy.
So let's talk about COVID specifically, and then I want to talk about your church context. So I'm asking open questions, some of which I already know the answer to because we're friends. Have you or anyone in your family had COVID? And if so, what was that like?
Yes. All 6 of us this past July had COVID, and it was not pleasant. That's the nicest way I can put it. Kind of started with the kiddos, and Laura and myself were the last ones in the family to contract COVID, and it didn't play nice with the 2 of us. My personal experience with it was I begged my doctor for about 3 or 4 straight days if I could go to the hospital. I just head to toe hurt. And not flu hurt. I mean hurt. And my oxygen levels never dipped lower than they should be. And so my doctor never let me do that. But it was no kidding. It was 4 weeks of just sick. I lost 18 pounds during that time. I don't think I ate a meal outside, outside of water, which is not even a meal, but I don't think I ate for over a week. And it just head to toe body aches, those kinds of things. So my suggestion is stay away from it, which is getting harder and harder to do, I think. But I think I probably had it the worst of the family.
Still dealing with any effects from it?
I say no. I will say I can't tell if COVID brain is still a part of things, which is kind of a fogginess of forgetting words, which some might say you probably were always like that, Travis. I don't know, so I can't tell. So, but other than that, the rest of us, the whole family, however many months ago that was, we're doing really well, and we're thankful for the blessing of the bodies God's given us to fight and regrow and be healthy once again.
Have you experienced other losses besides obviously the loss of, certainty of your health and loss of routine while you had COVID, obviously, but just in general, what other losses have you and your family and maybe your church experienced over the past year?
Yeah, I kind of go back to something I said a couple minutes ago. I don't think our story or experiences are unique in that sense, right? Every single one of us has experienced losses of some kind through this pandemic, and some of us to greater levels. We have church members that have lost family members to COVID, that have lost family members during the pandemic, and those kinds of losses resonate and ripple through church community. But the loss of family time, whether that's the trips you planned or the traditions that normally would have been fulfilled through the last summer or fall or whatever it was, we lost those. I haven't really gotten to see a lot of family over the last 10 so months, and those kinds of things, which are not unique to us. Those are societal, worldly losses that we're all experiencing at different levels and at different times through this. And I think one of the things for us too, Josh, is, and we're not perfect at this by any stretch, is tried to really think through. I really try to think more positively in the sense, let's flip it. Instead of losses, what are we gaining through this time? And from a family standpoint, we've gained such an incredible amount of family time together, where somewhere around Thanksgiving, I think we have begun a family Uno tournament, and we have a big chalkboard in our kitchen now that has tally marks of everyone's wins, which, by the way, I'm the leader on the board right now, just for the record. But we play Uno at least one game every day in our house. That's kind of the general hope that we have, right? Well, that's something that grew out of this weird and difficult time. And yes, we have losses, but we've also gained some things as a family and even as a church, where flexibility has been a practice as a community. But we've gained, I think, some maybe deeper relationships with individuals or individual families that weren't there pre-pandemic, and so trying to think of more positive is a helpful stance for me and for our church, just to we can find some blessing even in the midst of turmoil and uncertainty. That kind of helps lower the anxiety levels a little bit too.
I want to talk about your hopes and opportunities, because that's important for all of us right now. Let's pause for a minute and talk about your particular ministry context, which is at a church plant. So, you get all this momentum going, you're growing, you're at the kind of the beginning stages of getting a congregation off the ground. And then the pandemic hits, which, it's presented challenges for all churches, but right. I think probably some unique ones for a church plant. And I wonder if there's been times when you have felt among your losses a loss of important momentum in getting a church started. So can you talk about life as a leader of a church plant and what the pandemic has meant for that particularly?
Yeah, there's a lot there. When the pandemic at least hit our country and at least our neck of the woods, right? We weren't even 2 years old as a church, and to say that I was nervous is an understatement. And I've talked to Heritage, I've talked to our folks about this. I just naturally worried about what does this mean for a young church that leading up to the middle of March was growing exponentially, not only in families that joined the church, but spiritually and communally, right? And so much of that just came to a screeching halt, right? Because we weren't meeting in person anymore. We just like Memorial Road and everyone, right? You're adjusting on the fly, and so our focus on many things turned to other things, and it became survival mode for so long. Had a pandemic not hit, we would have been looking. We probably would have had a date already to break ground on a new church home this year. We're a little behind schedule on that now, and kind of reassessing and adjusting as we go. And so momentum and just some practical momentum slowed down. But even through that, and I'll kind of, I'll turn it on its head a little bit and try to think of the positive, because it has been an incredibly difficult time. And the practice of flexibility as a church has been trying at times, online, in person. We've had the without a church home, we meet at Heritage Elementary School. So we've had to work with EPS on when we can meet, where we can meet in the Heritage Elementary School building, what protocols, what sanitation protocols have to be added. All these extra layers of work have just kind of been added into all of that. And despite and regardless of all the extra, right, that we all had to go through, our church community, Heritage, is thriving, and it's because of God, and it's because of His Spirit that has been placed upon this community. We've added 11 families to our church, to our young church, through this time. Just the bravery of folks looking for a church through this time is probably another conversation, but folks that want to be a part of this church community and willing to meet outside or meet online or meet in a gym, whatever it may be in our current, month or week. It really practicing that flexibility, but also seeing that there is value in us being together in one form, one way or another, right? And so let's jump through whatever hoop we have to do, because being together in spirit is a valuable, not only for me as a person or you as a person, but for the community and the church, and ultimately, hopefully, for the kingdom. So I really hope that through those trials, or through these trials, we grow into, we continue to grow into the church that God has called us to be.
Have you noticed any opportunities that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise during the pandemic, ministry opportunities that maybe you stumbled upon like so many of us did, but hey, these constraints gave us some new opportunities, and we're going to try to carry some of this forward?
Yeah, I think from again, just from a community standpoint, I think there's been a lot of awareness to each other's needs, right? To each other's trials or even joys that are going on in our individual lives, individual family lives. And so I think there's an opportunity from that community standpoint where I think we're paying attention to each other a little more. And so that's that's a blessing in of itself. Not that it wouldn't have happened or wasn't happening before, but there seems to be an elevated temperature there, right, for one another, and that's good. From an outreach or larger Edmond community standpoint, we've tried to continue to work with Heritage Elementary School and the staff there and try to really think through. One of the things that's happening this school year with that outreach ministry is working with the leadership at the elementary school about some certain family needs, which we weren't involved at that level before. And so those opportunities of, as a young church that's now a little over 2 years old, you have to walk before you run, right? And so kind of thinking in those terms is these next steps are kind of opening themselves that I'm not sure would have without the time that we're in. And so we're kind of seeing those opportunities, but I'm also hoping, and I'm sure, I know Memorial Road, I know you, Josh, I know the guys and the ladies that are on staff there and the heart for other people, but we're going to have such a wonderful opportunity as, Lord willing, the pandemic comes to a close sooner than later. We're going to have such a wonderful opportunity as churches, as God's people, to kind of live out Luke 15, right? The lost coin, lost sheep, lost son. If people are valuable to us, we're going to go out and we're going to get them, right? Yeah. We're going to go find them. We're going to have to go out into our communities. For us, it's Twin Bridges neighborhood. From Memorial Road, it's going to be in those neighborhoods that sit right behind you and OC. And we're going to have to kind of probably keep ourselves a little more for a little longer, a little more uncomfortable to go out and find the people that we say are valuable and kind of take opportunity or take the opportunity that's before us to be the people we want to be, the outreach kind of people to share. And so, I think those kinds of opportunities are slowly presenting themselves and hopefully come in the clearer picture for us.
Yeah. I'll do a closing question in a minute, but just a nuts and bolts question for you as a preacher. What has it been like learning to preach to a lens?
Well, I've learned that the reactions are a lot more positive.
They are.
Yeah. There's no
because booing. You can imagine them to be the best possible, can't you?
That's right. Yeah.
Wide-eyed people sitting there hanging on our every word.
Yeah. It is an adjustment, right? This whole thing, but quite honestly, I don't even think too much about it anymore, which is hopefully I don't think that's a bad thing, but yeah, there's been a lot of adjustment to that, but I do look forward to seeing eyeballs once again instead of this white dot up there.
Absolutely. I've joked with some people, I'm sure it's the same with you, that you can watch me and probably you watch us learn how to live stream in real time by going back to March and watching our videos evolve through the weeks. And it's just, you start out one way. And now I'm regretting today, by the way, upgrading cameras because like this business right here, like it's clear as day on a nice camera. Like there's no mistaking, any kind of facial flaws of which I have many.
Didn't even notice.
Oh man. It's there. This is like, seriously, like if I do this anytime close to when I've had a meal or had coffee, it's like I better go brush the teeth before I get on camera. It's going to be so bad. Okay, so Travis, let me close with this question. What are you hopeful about in 2021?
I don't know if this is a standard fare kind of answer, but man, I'm hopeful in this year for connections, reconnections, new connections. Your question about preaching to a camera, talking to a camera, and stuff is it is it is practical and it is good. It's nice to be able to, if you're going to go through a pandemic as a church leader or as a church community, it's nice to have this technology. Right. But there is clearly a different kind of connection than us just chatting off to the side here, than us standing in the foyer, or standing in the auditorium or the hallway or whatever the case may be, the parking lot, and all these different things, and serving together and ministering together, which is something that we've been very conscious of trying to limit outside of our worship time, to really limit kind of the in-person things that we're doing. And so I'm most hopeful that we're in a place sometime this year that we can really begin to reconnect with one another and build new connections with new friends, new neighbors, and moving on from there. So,
well, Travis, thanks for spending some time talking to us. I've seen you, you're around the office sometimes to do some business, and we've been able to share an outdoor meal here and there during the pandemic. But man, when this is over, I'm looking forward to just having casual connections and not having to overthink every time that you want to get together and do things with people. If you're like me, a lot of our ministry is interpersonal. It's meeting people for breakfast and lunch and coffee, and all that is just so super tactical right now, when that can even be possible. And so we've done ministry in new ways, but I will be excited to be able to get with people easily.
I
when
agree.
this is done. So, well, Travis, thank you for the important work that you do. Love you, love your family. We love the Heritage Church. Everyone, if you're watching this, whether it's as it's premiering or later, feel free to drop a greeting and an encouragement for Travis in the comments. I know he'll be able to see those. Thanks for tuning in each week. Travis, I'm going to bid everyone goodbye, and we'll see you in a bit. Thanks, everyone, for continuing to watch. We're going to be here each Wednesday night in January and February with another episode of these God at Work conversations. Thanks for tuning into this one with Travis, and we will see you next week.